Hey everyone, how are you? I hope you're doing well today. I am going to take a quick second and find this video in our big Facebook group so I can pin it up to the top. But I'm so happy that you're joining me today. Happy Wednesday, happy May 24th. And I would love it if you are watching live. Let me know in the chat because I can see all of your comments. So let me know if you are watching, where you are joining from. And I'm so excited. We are live in my Facebook group, on my Facebook page, and also on YouTube. So let me know where you're joining me from. I can see your comments no matter where you are. And if you, as you type a comment, if you'd like, you can add your name along with as you type if you choose, or you can let StreamYard see your name and your profile picture, and then I can share that on the screen too, kind of like this. So I'm not sure who that is. Let's see. I think that is Susan. Hi, Susan. Is from Toronto, Ontario. Susan, I saw your beautiful shawl, and I was wondering what beautiful yarn shop is that in, or is that your stash in the picture behind? I'd love to know. We also have a hello from Valley View, Alberta. And Debbie is joining us from Selins Grove, Pennsylvania. And we have also Cheryl is joining us. I'm looking on two screens from Saskatchewan. So welcome, Cheryl. And I'm so happy to have you all joining me. I have a lot of things I want to talk about with you all today. And so I'm going to make myself a little bit smaller so that you can see what I've got going on, and kind of an overview of what I'm hoping to get through to chat with you all about today. So we'll talk about, first of all, how incredibly proud I am of you all, and not just those of you who are sailing along nice and smooth with your shawls and making having an easy go of it, but I am probably even more proud of those of you who are struggling and persevering and keeping it at it and ripping it out 10 times and just still motivated to get it. So I want to give a shout out to all of you who are doing the hard work of learning to do something that you haven't done before. So we'll talk a little bit more about that. And we'll talk about our LYS Love Knit Night. The next, I'll give you the date and how to sign up for that, and a peek at some of the giveaway prizes for the knit along and how to enter to win for the prizes. And I'll give you a hint, you don't have to finish the shawl to enter, because I want this to be kind of low key, not a high stress, racing to the finish line kind of project. I want you to enjoy your knitting. And we'll have our progress party, a little parade, maybe a little fashion show of your shawls and the pictures that you've shared with me, whether they're finished or still works in progress. I'll talk just a little bit about the Stitch Society and the bonus gift. I am going to talk about blocking your work. So if you have not blocked your work, or you're not really sure how to go about doing that, we'll talk a little bit about that. And I have, I'm going to add some time at the end for some Q&A. So if I've seen a question come up a bunch in the group, I'm going to already be addressing that. But if you have questions also, feel free, go ahead, add them in the chat, and I will respond to them as we go if I can, but I will also answer them at the end if I didn't get to it. So let me know what you're wondering. Let me know what you're struggling with, and if I can answer it while we're live, I will. And if not, especially if it requires some knit math, then I will get back to you with a message on Facebook or on email, and give you a more detailed, more thorough answer. So welcome, everyone. For those of you who don't know, I am Jessica. I am the everything behind Double the Stitches, and I was just working on something with a group of other people in the fiber arts industry called an elevator pitch. And supposed to be, kind of how you would introduce yourself or talk about what you do with if you're stuck in an elevator with someone and, or riding up in an elevator or down in an elevator. And mine just went on for all the different things that I do. And someone yesterday said to me that they're not sure if I ever sleep. But I do a lot of things and a lot of outreach and a lot of community building because I want this to be a place where you feel welcome, where it's warm, where we get to know each other, and where I share what I know to help you and empower you to become better knitters and to enjoy your time knitting. So that's the very, very short version of the very, very long one that I posted for some feedback. So more on that another time. And Susan, I think it is, said I put in the comments, spin me a yarn in, I'm going to butcher that, Etobicoke. I'm sure that I did not pronounce that correctly, but spin me a yarn in Canada and I work part-time here. That's so lovely. And thank you so much for sharing your beautiful shawl. I've got pictures of it to share with everyone here. And we also have, who else is joining us? We have Heather is joining us here from Oregon, and Sylvia is joining us here from Florida. So kind of spanning the country a bit. And also we've got some friends from Canada, so that's wonderful. Okay, so let's jump in. And again, as I said, if you have questions, if you're watching the replay, feel free and ask your questions, and I will come back and answer them too. And Shelly is here from Wyoming, and I've got pictures of her second LYS Love Shawl to share with you all when we get to our progress party. So this is something, a quote that I have seen a lot in different aspects, in different places, and I kind of wanted to kick today off with starting with this because we have knitters of all different skill levels joining us, and we have some who are kind of beginners, some who are what I like to call adventurous beginners. So you've knit a bunch of things and you're always looking to learn new skills and advance your skills to to further your knitting abilities. And I like to kind of call them your knitting skills, your knitting tools. Because once you learn how to do something, it is something you can do in different projects again and again. So if you've never knit lace before, then this certainly, I'm not surprised if you are feeling a little bit challenged. And we also have wonderful knitters who are seasoned makers, and they have been knitting, forever and done all the things. We have had some shawls knit by yarn shop owners, and also all skill levels all across the board. And I want to encourage you to think of this quote. I don't want you to compare your beginning to someone else's middle or your middle to someone else's end. And I think that's a really good perspective to keep in mind with your knitting. We can see and admire the skills of those who have been doing it longer or who are more advanced. But you have to acknowledge and celebrate where you are in your knitting journey. So I wanted to share a couple of tips for you for accepting mistakes in knitting. So these are just, a couple of things, a couple of thoughts. The first thing is that I want you to be kind to yourself and kind to your work. And I want you to know and recognize that you created this lovely project from sticks and from string. And maybe there's a stitch or two in there somewhere that's a little bit off, but I want you to admire what you've done, what you've accomplished and achieved, and look at the bigger picture and know that not very many people in the world can do what you did. So I want you to pat yourself on the back. I want you to give yourself a high five. And I want you to celebrate what you have accomplished. And maybe there's a stitch in there somewhere that's off. You can call that a design element, call it a signature, and to remember that no one really is perfect, and we're all likely going to make mistakes from time to time. So I want you to keep those things in mind, friends. And also, if you are struggling with the stitches because lace is not something that you've knit before, or these specific stitches are things that you haven't done before, I highly, highly recommend grab that scrap yarn in your stash. You have no idea what you're going to do with it, but you didn't feel like you could throw it out and you wanted to hold on to it, and grab some needles and cast on 29 stitches with that scrap yarn, and sit down in a quiet space and a quiet time and follow the stitch by stitch videos that I have for you. And those are at doublethestitches.com/LYS love shawl videos. And I'll put that in the comments later to make it clickable for you. I made a fancy banner too. The video tutorials are there, so it's a little bit bigger maybe on your screen. So it's my website, and then it's LYS Love Shawl Videos. And so I walked through all of the different stitches for you so that you can watch. And also to look at the chart because it's visual, and people get scared and nervous following charts. But I think that it is worth trying to understand it. If you have questions, reach out and let me help. But I did talk about the chart also in the videos. And Heather shared the videos are super helpful. I watch them each repeat until I have a more natural feeling, and I highly recommend that. That's great. Shelly had more advice. She says, and you see it, but others probably won't even notice until you point it out to them. Don't point it out to them. Say, look what this beautiful shawl I made. And Mary says, I love that thought. Happy knitting love from upstate New York. I'm glad you're joining us, Mary. So that's my best advice to you is don't worry about knitting the whole shawl if you're struggling. Just work on 29 stitches and do a few repeats until it feels more comfortable. And then once the stitches are introduced, it's the same stitches throughout. So there's no new surprises as you get further into the shawl. I have videos for picking up the stitches when you're ready to do the side panels, but don't worry about that yet. That's really not terribly difficult to do. But follow the videos, look at the chart, see if the chart helps you. I avoided charts for a long time, and then I decided I was going to learn them. It was around the same time actually that I became where I started designing my own patterns, because I wanted to be able to understand them so that I could teach them and include them in my patterns. And there's a key. Every stitch that is used in the chart is in the key, so you'll find that there too. And don't worry about the big project if you're struggling. Work on smaller, on a swatch. And then it's with scrap yarn. You can tear it out as many times as you need without feeling worried that you're going to ruin the good yarn. Okay, so the LYS Love Knit Night. We had our first one this past Saturday, and it was really, really lovely. It was such a wonderful opportunity, and felt so inspiring to have that chance to put faces with names and to connect with all who were able to attend. It's not something that was recorded so that we could have that opportunity to connect authentically, to not worry what, our makeup was or what we were wearing, or what we said, and to just be kind of genuine, and just enjoy each other's company. And I felt especially honored to have some LYS owners in attendance. Heather from Itsy Bitsy Yarn Store in Whitehorse, Canada, joined us in the Yukon, I think that is. And Kathleen from Twisted Shed in Colorado joined us. And Shelly, who's here on our chat today, is an indie dyer from Wicked Tint Yarns, I believe. Correct me if I'm wrong, Shelly, please. I'm pretty sure that is the name of her brand. And so she does beautiful hand-dyed yarn, and she had shared the link in the group to her stuff too. So if you're looking for some indie dyed yarn, Shelly, share it again in the group as a post. I think it was in a comment, but Wicked Tint Yarns is her brand, and she's been so wonderful and active and engaged in the White Court is in, I think it's Whitehorse, Yukon. Itsy Bitsy Yarn Store. I'm going to look it up because I don't want to give incorrect information. Whitehorse, Canada. It says YT. Is that a Yukon territory? Maybe. I'm sure one of our Canadians know more than I do. Anyway, so we have another knit night, and that is on Saturday, June 10th at 7 o'clock in the evening, Eastern time, which is 6 o'clock Yukon. Okay, great. So 7 o'clock Eastern, 6 o'clock Central, 5 o'clock Mountain, and 4 o'clock Pacific. So I would love for you to join us. It is not just a general YouTube link that I can share with you, but it is something that you can register for. There's no cost to attend. And we had such a nice time together. It is similar to in my private membership, in the Stitch Society membership. We get together twice a month for coffee chats. And so this is the same kind of idea, but for the knit along. I love that chance to connect with you all. And it's on Zoom. And you can join from your most comfy chair in your favorite comfy clothes and knit along. And if it's intimidating to knit while you're chatting, then just come and join for the company and have that opportunity to connect with other knitters. So that is the link to register. And I'll send out emails and reminders and stuff when we get closer, because that's a little bit further away. And a lot of you might be here curious about the giveaway. So in order to have an entry into the giveaway, the way that you get the entry is by creating a Ravelry project page with photos of your LYS Love shawl. It does not, as I said, have to be a completed project. Water, 1 second. Okay, so you don't have to have finished the shawl, but I would like to see pictures of your knitting of the project. So your work in progress photos are perfect. If you did complete the shawl, that is wonderful. If you enjoyed it, I'd love if you gave it a rating. If you share it anywhere, that's just out of the kindness of your heart. I would love that. But to get an entry into the giveaway, create a project on Ravelry. If Ravelry is not accessible to you and you're not able to use it, then reach out to me and I'll share a Google form where you can enter your information about the project. And then I'll create a project on your behalf, and that can count as your entry. I don't want to exclude anyone. So Ravelry project to enter, add your yarn so that other knitters can be inspired and see what yarn you used. I find that a really helpful feature as someone who is often spending time on Ravelry searching for different things. So it's nice to know what the yarn is that you used too. So how about those prizes? I have a few of them to share with you today. And the first one is this adorable knitting themed a zipper notions pouch from Fat Bottom Bags, courtesy of the Spinning Hand. And so thank you, Carrie, for that. And we also, I'm going to give away an accessory set of Knit Keeper cords from the Blue U. And I just got to chat with Jonathan last night. Oh, Shelly was talking about on Ravelry. She says, I share with Yarnist. Johnny asked for pattern suggestions we love. Shelly, I'm not sure what you mean. What yarn? I don't know what Yarnist but is. I'll have to look into that. But thank you. Thank you for sharing. So Knit Keeper cords, these are I don't have my project here. So you can, in case for those of you who don't know what they are. So you can slip them. It's like a silicone cord. There we go. So you slip the ends onto the tips of your needle, and it kind of works as an extension if you would like to try something on, or it also can secure your stitches if you need to borrow the needles for another project, which is something that frequently happens in my world. So you'll get to pick your color of Knit Keeper cord accessory set from the Blue U. And I am also going to give away a Yarn Ball Shorty row counter from Twice Sheared Sheep. So I like to give you my favorite things, the things that I can't live without, the things if I was starting my knitting notions bag all over again, the things I definitely would put in it. So these are row counters. So as you work a row, you slide your needle into the ring for the number below, and so you can keep track of what row you're on. I find them incredibly helpful because you don't have to remember where you put it. It hangs on your needle, and your children, my children, like to come by with those clicker row counters, and they just like to come and click it. And that is terribly frustrating for their mommy. So this is uh, one of my favorite knitting accessories. Oh, Shelly says, there's a site called New Stitch a Day and has recently added a group much like the Stitch Society. Okay. Well, thank you so much, Shelly. That is great to know. And I am also giving away a wood shawl pin from Likey. They make knitting needles and other things like that. And I don't want to, pick your preference, so you'll get a choice of mango or rosewood, whichever goes more with your style. So those are the prizes. Oh, the last one. And I'm gonna pick 2 winners for this. You'll get your choice of 4 knitting pattern or crochet patterns from me, and that I'll pick 2 winners for that. So any of my patterns, there's I think 44 patterns currently in my Ravelry shop, and I can gift them to you through Ravelry, or I can email you the PDFs. So whichever is your choice. Okay, who's ready for the progress party? I have so many pictures to share you. I'm so excited. I've been getting them in email, I've been getting them in messages, and I've been getting them in various posts in the Facebook group. So let's share those. So this is from Margot. She is one of my test knitters and Stitch Society members, and she shared her beautiful shawl. And Margot lives in Mexico, and she doesn't very often get an opportunity to knit with wool yarn because of the climate, because it's so much warmer. So she knits generally with a lot of cotton. So this was, I think, her first or one of her first experiences knitting with a merino yarn, and that's just it's a different feeling, I think, than the cottons and the bamboos. And they're all beautiful, and they're all for different climates, but sometimes you need an extra warm layer. So this was perfect for her, and her knitting is beautiful. And Christina shared her progress and said, finally. And I was so excited to see that. And Jean says, just finished the 3rd repeat of center lace section. The white string is a lifeline at the end of repeats. So bravo, applause for the lifeline. That is one of my favorite things with lace knitting, especially, and especially if it's a pattern that you're finding a little bit challenging, is that you can thread a strand through your stitches when you get to a point where you know that everything is good, so that if you do need to rip back your work, you can pull it off the needles, rip back to that string, and as long as you have gone through every single stitch, then you won't have to worry about it unraveling past that lifeline. So they are lifesavers, especially for things that are more detailed or more complicated patterns. So great job, Jean. And Anne also shared her progress. And Ursula knit this sample for Marblehead Knits in Massachusetts and even modeled it. On Ravelry, you can see her beautiful face, but I cropped it for you all so that she wasn't part of the slideshow. And, to respect privacy as much as I can. And Shelly is working on her 2nd shawl and says, I have reached the social knitting stage, lots of stockinette. And Shelly is a genius. She is knitting the side panels at the same time, kind of like you might do 2 at a time for socks. Just caution you, be careful. Make sure that when you get to the end of one panel, that you switch to the next strand so that you don't knit straight across. But it's a great way to make sure that they are the same length, to not have to count. I counted the ridges, and that was how from the garter stitch edge, the ridges there is how I made sure that mine was the same length. But the nice thing about this is when you're done knitting, you have a finished project. You don't have to go back and work the other side. And Sylvia says, for the WIP parade, the Work in Progress parade, enjoying this so much. And I know that Sylvia found yarn in her stash that she had had for many, many years. I think she said around 15 years. And she finally found that this was the perfect project for it. So she was so excited to get to use this yarn that she had been holding onto and treasuring from, I think she got it in Woodstock, New York. And Jerry shared yesterday, she said, on the blocking boards, first step done, and it looks beautiful. And then she has an update, and she's on the last panel. Love this shawl. Should be done tonight, then onto a pink shawl. Yes, I bought yarn for a second shawl because I couldn't decide what color. And on Ravelry, Neat Knitter 56 says center panel of LYS Love Shawl 2023 after 3 repeats. So it's looking beautiful. And Ms. Coffee on Ravelry shared this photo of this pretty yellow that she's using. And Martha shared her pretty pink shawl and says really enjoying this project. And Sisso on Ravelry is using Jody Long Chow in Aquarius. That yarn comes in, that's the yarn that I used for the original shawl. It comes in a lot of beautiful shades, and this is a pretty vibrant blue. I really love that. And Heather from the Wool Queen says, good morning, Jessica. I have completed the LYS Love Shawl, and it is on display in my store. I used Lane Denured Baby Soft. It is a cotton soy blend, very soft. And she was the boss of her knitting. She said, I did go down to the 4.5 needles, which would be US 7, I believe. For me, it worked better. I also did an I-cord cast off, as it is one of my favorites. I hope you like my end product. I know I love it. That made me so happy to see. And she said, have a yarnalicious day. And Dakota Stamper on Ravelry shared, started out with a size 9 needle, but thought the fabric was a bit loose, so went down to a size 8 needle, which would be a 5mm needle, and liked that better. And Monkey 1022 on Ravelry shared, changed stockinette panels from 10 inches to 10 inches from 12 inches to ensure I had enough yarn. And that was one of the special things when I designed this shawl. Besides the stockinette giving you an opportunity for some social knitting if you choose, or TV watching or movie watching, it also gives you a nice place where you can make some adjustments in the length of the shawl, whether it is because maybe you have a little bit less yarn or you're worried about playing yarn chicken and running out of yarn. It is also another place where if you are, maybe you are taller and you like it, your shawls to be longer, you have that opportunity where you can extend the length there easily without worrying about stitch patterns and repeats and things like that. So kind of made this modular. This was my penance for the last 2 big shawls I did. Had you casting on over 350 stitches for a crescent shawl that was knit from the bottom up. So I wanted to give back a little and have you work something modular where you can easily make adjustments and not have to cast on and count out so many stitches. So Katha shared through row 5 center section, and the SSP still feels fiddly. I'm not surprised, but I think you're doing a great job. And you have to go slip the stitches and slip them back and come through the back loop of those stitches to knit them. But it makes such a nice clean line that I found that it was worth it, and I hope that you all do too. And Joanne shared, just blocked and will cast on the sides now. That's a beautiful yarn you used, Joanne. And Susan, who's here joining us, shared her shawl. And this is her shawl that is on display. I am looking for the shop name again, which of course I don't see it now because it's not going to share all the comments. So so this is Susan's shawl, And I really love that jewel toned kind of teal color that you used. It's really, really pretty. Spin Me a Yarn in Canada, and she works part-time there. That looks like a beautiful shop to visit if you're ever in the area. So I'm glad that you shared that with us. And so I just wanted to mention again, sort of briefly, that the Stitch Society membership, which is my small, tight-knit community, is currently open. The membership doors are open, and I invite you to join us inside. Your new favorite Yarny friends are waiting to welcome you. We've got lots of bonuses. You'll get a surprise gift for my birthday. I was going to tell the details of what that is, and I posted in the group, and I asked you all if you want to know what it is. And I think everyone said surprise me. So I am not posting publicly what it is. But if you are a current member and you really want to know what it is, or you are thinking about possibly joining and you'd like to chat more or you'd like to know what it is, feel free and send me a message. But I'm going to keep it private and not public. So you'll get a gift in the mail for my birthday in August. There are 3 payment options for you to make it as accessible as I can. So there is a monthly option, which is $21 a month. I don't hold anything back, so everything is included in the membership, no matter which option that you pick. There's a 6-month option, so over the course of a year, you'll get 1 month free, or save 10%. And then there is the annual option, and you end up getting 2 months free when you join for the year. So it's a nice savings. If you have questions about anything, reach out, let me know. We can chat over messages. If you'd like to get together on Zoom, let me know. I'll send you the link for my calendar, and we can find a time that works for both of us so we can chat more about it, and I can answer any questions that you might have. Send me an email, smoke signal, anything. I'm here to chat with you all. And just a very quick overview of what you get as a member. You get a pattern every month, priority pattern support from me. You get access to my Stitch and Technique library. Those are helpful videos for different techniques. And when I run a challenge or a workshop, you get access to those too. Every month we get together for 2 private Stitch sessions on Zoom. Those are very much like the knit nights, but those are for members only. We also have Fiber Friends interviews. So I just interviewed yesterday. Jonathan from the Blue U joined me. And I have Biz from Busy Crochet joining me on Thursday, tomorrow. And we've hung out with Dawn from Twice Sheared Sheep, and Carrie from The Spinning Hand, and Linda and Chris from Eagle Bend Alpaca Farm. And who else have we hung out with? Emily Lime from Woolen Pellet Yarn. She's also an indie dyer, and Jennifer Parasini, who's another knitwear designer, and Brenda Shack, who's another designer, and Erin Designs joined us too. We had Erin from Crafty Housewife Yarns. We've had so many guests, and it's such a fun treat to get a chance to talk to some of my most favorite people kind of in the fiber world. So those happen once a month. And then I also added a new feature of the membership, unlimited Zoom chats. So I've given you access to a Zoom room that members can get together with others, even on times where I might not be available. So that there's access to that. So you can post in the group and say, you know, I'm free at this date and this time, anyone available to join me, and you can hop on a call together. It's unmoderated, but we're all grown-ups, and I trust you to be kind to each other. You also get free admission to my future workshops, and I have 2 more coming up this year. Those range in price from $37 to $50 each, and I will be announcing tomorrow. I'm going to start. You'll see me talking about what my next workshop is. Stay tuned for that. And you also get instant access to 3 bonus workshops. Those are on-demand access, so those are recorded and you can watch them anytime that's convenient for you. You get the beginner's guide to lace knitting. So if you are struggling with lace, that's a great workshop for you. We also have my conquer cable knitting workshop where I teach you how to knit different types of cables, how to knit reversible cables, how to fix cables so that you don't have to undo your work, and also my oops workshop, which is teaches fixing kind of more general mistakes, fixing stockinette stitch, garter stitch, missing yarn overs, accidental yarn overs, all kinds of things like that. Oops, I guess it's on this slide. So A Taste of Brioche is my next workshop. So I will tell you about it now briefly. So we're going to tackle brioche, and I'm going to teach you the main stitches that are used in brioche knitting, and we're going to do that starting in June. I didn't want this to be an overwhelming class where it's jam-packed in 2 hours and you feel like your brain might melt. We're going to do this with weekly lessons over a series of weeks. So we'll talk about brioche in the round, we'll talk about knitting brioche flat, we'll talk about increases and decreases, and one color brioche, two color brioche, and I'll have a pattern for you too to practice with, and that's going to be 2-color brioche. I can give you a sneak peek of the yarn since I have it next to me. So we're going to use, this is the yarn for that project. Sorry about that. And then in the fall, we're going to do a sock knitting workshop, socks step by step. We're going to do toe up and top down socks. $317 in workshops alone, just in the bonuses. And members also get an ongoing discount on yarn and needles at thespinninghand.com. So anytime that you want to buy something from the Spinning Hand, you'll have a special code that you can use as long as you are a member. And so that is the link to join doubledstitches.com/stitch society. And if you have questions about the membership, please reach out to me and ask. I would love to chat with you more. Let me know what you're wondering. Let me know what you're thinking. And now we can move into one of the things I wanted to share with you all today was about blocking your knitting. To block or not to block, I called it. This is just a fin and feather, an old shale lace pattern. So it's not from, the LYS Love Shawl, but I had taken pictures before and after blocking because I wanted you to see the difference. I wanted to see why so many knitters religiously block their projects, especially when they are lace. And I wanted to talk a little bit about what blocking is. I wanted to share tools for blocking your knits. So you can lay it on towels on the floor or on a bed, or towels on, a table in your home, wherever you have space. You can also use blocking boards. So these are kind of they puzzle piece together, they interlock. So you can make it any shape or size that you need it to be. So if you're blocking something that is a triangle, you can make them more of a triangular shape. You can use, there's different ways to pin your knitting to size. And that's why a lot of patterns will give you a schematic and they will show you their intended measurements to block your knits to. And so you can pin them with, at the bottom here, these are what's called T-pins. So they've got a little metal T, top, and then a sharp pin that comes down. When I have to block something that needs straight size, I really, really love knit blockers. They are hard plastic pieces with a bunch of pins in them, and it makes it so much easier to get a straight line and not have things pulling in different directions. And then I recommend Eucalyptus is a good option for wool wash, but there are so many. I like this one because you don't have to rinse it out, and there are scents and there's an unscented option too. But I did want to talk to you a little bit about what blocking is, and just kind of go over a little bit about that with you, and then we can move on to Q&A. So I have some questions I'm going to answer already, and if you have questions, definitely feel free to add them into the chat. But so here's my little thing about blocking, and that is that most knitters have heard the term, but they don't really have an understanding of what that process actually requires. And many patterns end with the simple little word of block, block your work. As a result of this lack of understanding on how to block, many knitters simply skip this final step. Unfortunately, skipping this step can have big ramifications. So if you've ever wondered why your finished piece doesn't quite look like the photo in the magazine, or if your gauge is off just a tiny bit, lack of blocking may be the reason. Blocking is that final step of making your project. Learning about the process of how to block knitting smooths and evens your stitches, sets your final dimensions. It gives your project that professional and finished look. It's not something to be intimidated by. The process is not complicated, and the results are well worth the effort. With a little care and attention, you can transform a crumpled piece of knitting into a beautiful showpiece. So even though blocking is considered the final step, you should block your swatches before casting on the full number of stitches for your project, because the gauge stated in a pattern is most often measured after the piece is blocked. Sometimes it will give measurements for before blocking and after blocking, but you'll need to know your blocked gauge in order to make the correct choice of your needle size. So if you use your gauge swatches, you can try several needle sizes to determine what you want to use for your finished project. And when you're blocking something in the round, a great tip I got from the lovely ladies at Eagle Bend Alpaca Farm is to use pool noodles. And they're made of foam, so you can pin your work into them. You don't have to worry about them getting wet, and they can keep you from getting creases on the sides when your round piece dries flat. So for example, if you think about a cowl or a sweater or a hat, and you don't want those blocking those creases on the sides, you can use pool noodles and pin into those. So that's a little tip on blocking. And the idea is that you want to soak your work. You want to really get it wet. You want ideally the bucket or whatever you're using, sink that you're putting your project into, you want it to be larger than your piece, so it has some freedom to move around. And then you don't want to wring your work. You want to gently squeeze out the water. You want to put it between or roll it up in a towel. And then what I honestly do is I will put that towel on the ground and I will stomp on it for quite a bit. And sometimes I get my kids involved. That really squeezes out the water nicely so that it takes less time to dry. Then you're going to lay it out smoothly on whatever surface you're using, whether it's blocking boards or towels or what have you. And then you want to smooth out the stitches and you want to pin it to the size and the shape. And Heather asked a very good question, and I don't know the answer to that because I use unscented. She says, do scented options help eliminate any issues with moths? So I'm going to research that, and I'm going to, I'll come back and I'll comment in the chat. And so that is my little blocking information, just, short overview. But I know a lot of people are intimidated by it, and a lot of people are not really sure what the reason is. And so I think this swatch does a nice job of demonstrating the difference. And I will also say that I remember when I blocked this before the picture, I didn't soak it for very long. It was very late at night and I soaked it for just a few minutes, and I had wanted to pin it out before I went to bed that night. So even just a few minutes of blocking, of soaking, can make such a big difference. That is the tools. And so we are up to the Q&A part. One question that I see coming up a lot in the group is about the center panel measurements. And so the pattern does have a schematic, but if you are not used to reading them, then it might have been a little bit confusing. So I wanted to make sure that I took a minute and talked about it because it was something a lot of people were wondering about. So the center panel on my shawl measured 11 inches high, which is 27.5 centimeters, and it measured 40 inches wide, which is 100 centimeters. The thing that I want to mention, which I've said this before, but the nice thing about knitting the center panel and blocking it is you can see if your measurements vary greatly from mine, and you can determine if you want to adjust the side panels, if you want to knit a little bit longer because in stockinette, because maybe your center panel was shorter and you really want to hit that the same length as the sample shawl. If your measurements are go in the other direction and your center panel comes out much wider than mine, it comes out bigger than 40 inches, then you can reduce the amount of stockinette stitch on the side panels. Just make sure whatever you do to one side, you do the same to the other so that they are even. And this was Katrina had shared her shawl and she blocked it, hers. She said blocked mine today. But now I'm wondering if it's supposed to be scalloped on the top or was I supposed to pin that straight? And this is one of those things that is definitely, in my feeling, is knitter's choice. So you can either, I blocked mine with scallops, and that's what Katrina did here too, but it's up to you. Some people blocked that straight. If you are just blocking to determine, the full width of it before you do your side stitches, then you could choose to, just do more of a rough, straight and don't pin out the scallops if you are worried more about the width when you do that initial blocking. And then at the end, definitely make that choice of whether you want to pull those scallops up. I liked them because I liked the look of the scallops coming or around my shoulders there and kind of at the top, depending on how I wrapped it and wore it. So that is knitter's choice, friends. And then Heather shared that she was trying to figure out if I can save a mistake without starting over. Any advice what I did wrong? Previous to taking pictures, my tail of my cast on somehow got stuck in my knitting, and this is what was left after I pulled it out. Every project, my greatest learning comes from fixing mistakes. I'm trying to get better at not having to take the whole thing out to do that. So a few kind members in the group encouraged her, since she had only knit maybe a row or two, it's a little difficult to tell. At that point, their feeling was, and it was mine too, that for something like this, since it was not a ton of stitches and only a couple of rows at the most, that this would be something that they would take out and start over. It's always difficult to figure out exactly what happened kind of in the aftermath on something like this, but my guess is that maybe there was a stitch that got pulled out. There are ways to pick up and fix the cast on part, but for something like this, I also felt that in this case, Heather would be much happier with okay, oh, Heather says, I need a video on how to repair errors that involve having a yarn over involved. So I do have those videos, but those are part of my, I think they're in my oops class, my general oops class, but they're also definitely in my beginner's guide to lace knitting class. I go over all different kinds of picking up an accidental yarn over, or a missing yarn over rather, picking up a missing yarn over, or what to do if you have an accidental and extra yarn over. And those are part of the membership, but they're also available to purchase separately. So if you're interested in that, let me know. You don't have to be part of the membership to have access to those courses. So I can chat with you more about that. And again, just a reminder, our LYS Love Knit Night is Saturday, June 10th. It also happens to be Worldwide Knit in Public Day, so you can go ahead knit outside, knit in your community if you have one in person. And then you can also join us in the evening for a knit night together on Zoom. So if anyone has any questions, feel free to let me know in the chat. Otherwise, I am going to thank you all for joining me and for being here. And it really was so lovely to have this opportunity to get to know you. And again, if you have questions about the Stitch Society membership, there's a whole page with all of the everything that's included in it. And again, I'm also happy to chat with you and more than happy to, message with you, email with you, or if you'd like to get together and chat on Zoom privately and let me know what your questions are. I'm happy to send you a link to my booking calendar for that. So thank you so much to everyone who has joined me. And this is recorded. So if you want to come back and look at any of the projects or the prizes or anything else, it will be available for you to watch. So have a wonderful Wednesday, friends. Thank you so, so much. And I hope that you're loving this project and this knit along and this time together. Have a wonderful rest of your day, friends.